Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning, and today I am joined by my co-host, Pearse McLaughlin. Hello, Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be discussing all the latest news and results from the Scottish Premier League and English Premier League. We will be previewing this week's European matches, and Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So coming up next, we'll be discussing the latest news and results from the Scottish Premier League. So there was big news that came out this weekend from the Scottish Premier League, and that was that Rangers have announced that they had sacked Michael Beale. So the Rangers manager was sacked after a 3-1 defeat to Aberdeen at the weekend, which has meant that the Ibrox side have lost 3 league games out of the first 7. So Pearse, what is your reaction to Rangers sacking Michael Beale?
I think the writing was on the wall. When you spend that amount of money in the summer, which Michael Beale did to do a rebuild that was really needed at the club, considering they lost the experience of Alan McGregor, they lost Alfredo Morelos up front, and they also lost Ryan Kent, and obviously they've loaned out Yanis Hadji as well. So they needed a lot of attacking talent. So they brought in Danilo from Feyenoord, Lammers, Cyril Dessers, to name a few, and a lot of them he's been trying to shoehorn 3 strikers into the forward areas. It just hasn't worked at all. And a lot of Rangers fans have been kind of claiming that there's not really been a style of play. It's been a bit passive at times and very defensive minded considering the amount of attacking talent they've got. And they started the season off poorly with the opening day defeat to Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. And then obviously losing the first Old Firm game of the season and then losing 3-1 at home to Aberdeen, which was the final straw for the Rangers hierarchy. I do think it's a bit premature, but I do think once you fall 7 points behind so early on in the season, sometimes that can just be the final straw, and Rangers, they can almost see it down, spiraling further. So I thought it might have been a bit early, but I think the writing was on the wall in terms of Michael Beale losing his job. But you never want to see a manager lose his job.
No, you don't. You don't want to see a manager lose their job. But my reaction to it is that I'm not surprised. I did have a feeling that this would happen after Aberdeen won at the weekend. There's quite a number of things you could say as to where it went, but I think the big thing, as you said, I think it was the recruitment at the end of the day. We all knew that this past summer this was probably the biggest transfer window that Rangers have had in a number of years, in terms of moving players on and also bringing players in. And, now that that's happened, there's been a lot of change at Rangers, as you said, about the players that have left and the players that have come in. And although we are still early in the season, it does look like the squad isn't as strong or stronger than last season. And it kind of needed to be for Rangers because, there was a major kind of overhaul that had to happen there, but it doesn't seem to have happened for the new signings at the moment. There's question marks about whether, the recruitment is, has gone well. And to lose your first 3 league games of the season, especially for a club like Rangers, with the wealth and the transfer money they've got over majority of clubs in Scotland, it's not good enough at the end of the day. And Michael Beale would have known that. He knows that if you're going to lose your first 3 games out of 7 in the league, then you're going to be in a bit of trouble. And they're 7 points behind Celtic. And, although it's still very, very early on in the season, there is a big, strong case to say that, Celtic are going to now go and win the title. So I just wanted to ask you, where do you think it specifically went wrong for Michael Beale?
I think this goes back to you didn't really see a lot of style of play under him. when you look at, for instance, like an Ange Postecoglou, when he first came into the door, you've seen early signs of what he tried to do, but he didn't have the right personnel. And I think he tried to do similar to what when he was assistant manager under Gerrard. He tried to play fullbacks bombing on and inside forwards, but I just don't think he had the right personnel. I think he bought in players that just didn't suit the system, or he was playing players out of position. And ultimately that's cost him his job because it's not worked out at all. And a lot of players haven't reached the level that Rangers fans expect, because with a club the size of Rangers, you'd expect it to win week in, week out. And like you said, you touched on it earlier. If you lose 3 out of your first 7, that's you're in for a hiding from the fans, and ultimately lost his job because of that.
Yeah, I think where it specific went wrong is, I think it is a style of play. That's what I would say. We talked about recruitment and whether that isn't being good enough. But the players that Michael Beale's brought in, and the style of play that he's trying to play, I don't really see where, like, what the idea is from Rangers. When you watch them, it's been very slow. There's no real patterns of play. You were touching on when Postecoglou joined Celtic. You knew from the signings that he'd made, and you knew from the style of play, you knew exactly what he wanted to do. But with Michael Beale, it didn't. I haven't really seen anything to suggest that, well, from a Rangers point of view, I don't think they've seen anything they can kind of attach themselves to and say, "All right, okay, I see what he's trying to do." Give him time. And the Rangers fans, they did turn on him pretty quickly. Um, and when the fans turn on you, it's going to be a long way back. So I do think it was style of play where I think it went wrong with Michael Beale. I just don't think there was a clear style of play. When you watch Rangers under Michael Beale, and I do think that's where it specifically went wrong for Michael Beale at the end. So just moving on to the type of manager Rangers. So Pearse, what kind of manager do you think Rangers need to try and recruit next?
I think they need to recruit a young, attacking-minded manager, because I think Michael Beale was a bit too pragmatic at times. Like he wanted to play with two holding midfielders, sometimes even switching to a 5 at the back, and then just kind of hitting teams on the counter attack. Where I think Rangers really need to be in the front foot. In the majority of games, obviously in Europe that might be a bit different, but they need a young attacking manager that's proven to be successful. It doesn't matter if it's been in Europe, it can be further afield. And I think the one of the main candidates that's been linked is former player Kevin Muscat, who's obviously managing Ange Postecoglou's old side. So I think if they go down that route, that would be a pretty good appointment for them, because he's proven that he's been successful in Japan and in Australia. So he's a young manager, and he worked under Postecoglou. So I think he will be a good schooling, and obviously he's a former Rangers defender as well. So you'll know the club inside out. So that's the kind of route that he should be going down, because Michael Beale, although he was assistant manager to Gerrard under that season when they won the league, stopping the 10 in a row for Celtic, he wasn't really a proven manager. He'd only been like a full-time manager like in a matter of a couple of months at QPR, and his tenure proved that he wasn't experienced enough for the job. And someone that's going to go into Rangers has to be experienced, and because the fact is they need to win games and need to be competitive and start winning trophies, because last season they finished trophyless, and that is unacceptable if you're a Rangers fan.
Yeah. For me, the big thing for me in terms of the next manager Rangers try to need to recruit is experience for me. Michael Beale came in, and as you just said, he'd only really been a manager for a few months before he came into Rangers. And managing a side, a club as big as Rangers, it's the pressure and the demand that comes from that. I think Rangers need to try and go out for someone that's that's been a manager for a good number of years. Also identifies young players and plays them. I don't think I've seen enough young players coming through the Rangers academy over the last few years. So maybe that's something that they need to try and look at. And obviously the style of play comes into it as well. But definitely, um, experience, because the last two managers Celtic have had. So right now, the current manager Brendan Rodgers, he's been a manager for a good number of years now. He's got trophies, and in his bag. Same with Ange Postecoglou. Although he wasn't known or heard of in Europe as much, he's been managing for a good number of years before that. Before he came to Celtic, he'd also had experience of winning in Japan. So I definitely think we just need to try and go down the experience route, and because I think for the next manager that Rangers get, it's going to be a big job for them, because the squad that they've got at the moment isn't clicking. They're way behind in the title race already. But when you look at it in the positive side, they actually do have a chance of winning a league cup in the next month or two. With Celtic out of the League Cup, Rangers are in the semi-final. So if a Rangers manager comes in the next month or two, they win a cup, that could really spur that Rangers squad on, and give them the confidence that they need. But for me, the type of manager that they need to recruit next is definitely an experienced manager. So we will now give you the list of other results from the Scottish Premier League this weekend. So they were Motherwell 1, Celtic 2, Hibs 0, Dundee 0, Kilmarnock 1, St Mirren 1, Ross County 0, Hearts 1, St Johnstone 1, Livingston 1. So Pearse, from these list of results, which match stands out to you the most?
It's got to be the big game at the weekend. Motherwell 1, Celtic 2. It was a game where it was very highly competitive. Motherwell were thoroughly deserving of at least a point from the game. They defended well organised, and you can see why they're putting up so many points under Stuart Kettlewell. And the fact is, we touched on it last week. They've got the second most points tally in 2023 in the SPFL, just behind Celtic, which I think is a remarkable achievement for a club the size of Motherwell and with the budget they have compared to Rangers and Celtic. And obviously they scored an equaliser in the 96th minute, and you're expecting, that's 2 points drop for Celtic, that will give initiative to Rangers at 3 o'clock in the later kickoff. And literally straight from kickoff, Celtic grab a winner in the 97th minute. And it had to be telling that it was Matt O'Reilly that scored the goal, considering he literally got a new contract extension in the last 24 hours prior to the game. But no, I thought that game had everything in it. It was like there was chances galore from both sides, and some really good football from both sides, and it was thrilling right to the end. So it was a nail biting stuff, and it was a really great spectacle of Scottish football.
Yeah, that's my game of the weekend. I'm actually going to be different from you. I thought for 85 minutes of that match, I didn't think it was a good game at all. I don't think both sides really created much. I think Celtic kind of really struggled to kind of build the game a lot. But then it came to the 88th minute, and the game just exploded. Basically, the last 10 minutes of that match was pretty crazy. I would say, for Motherwell, it's really unfortunate for them. I don't think on the day they deserved to lose. I actually felt it was probably fair that it finished a draw on the day. I don't think Motherwell kind of deserved to lose. But you have to talk about Celtic's mentality. To concede a goal in the 96th minute, a minute to go in the match. Celtic could have just thought, oh, it's not our day, we're just going to have to settle for the point. But right from the kickoff, they went right up the pitch, and Greg Taylor put in a good ball, and Matt Riley's, finish was brilliant for a first time shot. The ball was in the air, and to put it on his right foot and smash it into the net, a fantastic win for Celtic. And, as we've just previously talked about, the fact that Rangers lost as well last weekend, that now means that Rangers and Celtic are separated by 7 points. And I think Celtic will be pleased with that because I don't know if you agree, but Celtic haven't been great this season. They've had a very slow start. They've got a lot of injuries at the moment. They haven't really hit the heights of, last season. So, no, they'll be delighted with that, especially with the fact how Motherwell have played this season. They've had a really good start to the season, although they've lost the last 3 matches. But every match that they've played in these last 3 matches, they should be taking positives out of. So, that is definitely the match of the weekend for me as well. But just a quick shout out to St Mirren as well. I think I say it every week on the podcast. They drew at the weekend 1-1 against Kilmarnock. They're still second. They're still unbeaten in the league. It's been a fantastic start for them in this league campaign. So let's see how long that goes on for. They're playing Rangers at the weekend as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. So we also have teams in Scotland playing European matches this week, and they include Celtic versus Lazio, Aberdeen versus Helsinki, and Aris Limassol versus Rangers. So Pearse, what is your thoughts for these upcoming matches?
I think we'll start off with Celtic and Lazio. Celtic need to at least get something from the game if they've got any chance of progression into European football beyond Christmas. And also they need to keep 11 men on the park because the last game they played, they went down to 9 men, and that makes it a really difficult task to get anything from any football match, European elite level in the Champions League. And also Lazio at the weekend lost against AC Milan 2-0. They're going through a bit of turmoil with Miroslav Sarri complaining at the board about transfers. But like you say, Celtic haven't been in the greatest of form this season. But unlike Michael Beale at Rangers, you can still see a style of play under Brendan Rodgers, and slowly but surely the players are adapting to that because they were used to a 2-year spell under Ange Postecoglou, where they played a slightly different attacking style of football. But Brendan Rodgers likes to be a more patient build-up and focus on width in the wings. And I do think you'll see a much more improved performance. And I do think, obviously, in recent times, Celtic have played Lazio back under Neil Lennon in 2019, and they managed to get 2 phenomenal results. But to get a result against a club of this size in Lazio, I do think Celtic will have to be their absolute best. And I do predict a narrow Celtic win or a draw. I think that would be a phenomenal achievement, and because Lazio's a brilliant side, and they've got some world-class talent in Luis Alberto and Ciro Mobley, to name a few. In terms of Aris Limassol and Rangers in the Europa League, I do think Rangers are going through a bit of turmoil. Obviously, managerial change with Michael Beale, which we touched on. Stephen Davis and is it Alex Reyes in interim charge. I do think this game, so it's tough to call because obviously managerial change, but you do expect Rangers with the quality that they would have enough to see it over the line and get 3 points considering they beat Real Betis on match day 1. So I expect a narrow Rangers win in that one. And in terms of Aberdeen and Helsinki, well, Aberdeen in match day 1 in the Conference League proved that they can play at this level, and obviously they'll be buoyant after a 3-1 victory over Rangers at Ibrox at the weekend. So in taking the Finnish side back to Pittodrie, I think that will be a phenomenal atmosphere, and I do think all 3 Scottish sides can get victories, and I fully expect that. And I think Aberdeen should be fairly confident considering they only narrowly lost away in Germany to Eintracht Frankfurt, who were Europa League winners only a couple of seasons ago. And obviously they're starting to pick up a bit of form now. So no, I expect Aberdeen to win, and hopefully all 3 Scottish sides will win in Europe.
Yep, absolutely. I'll just quickly go through as well. So obviously Celtic Lazio. it's a big game for Celtic. They'll have to take something from this, at least a point. You know, they can't afford to lose that at all, especially the fact that they've lost in the first game in the group. You know, obviously Celtic are coming into this after a dramatic win at the weekend, and Lazio coming into this not in the greatest of form, as you said. The manager Maurizio Sarri is not the happiest at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how Lazio turn up to Celtic Park. You know, for Celtic, they will have a lot more space in the game because Lazio will look to come and try and play their game. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch. It's hard to call. I'm going to say a draw. I think it will be a draw that game. You know, and I think if that ended in a draw, I think Celtic would be pretty happy. Although they'll obviously want to get all 3 points. And then Aberdeen Helsinki, you know, a couple of weeks ago I would have been pretty worried about Aberdeen for this game because of the start to the season they had. But ever since their first game in the Conference League against Frankfurt, you know, the change in performances has been really good. You know, they've had some. The last 3 games have been really good. You know, obviously a brilliant win at the weekend against Rangers at Ibrox. So they'll be going into this game with confidence. They're at Petroja as well, you know, and I think they will win that game, just due to the form that they're in. Yeah, I do think Aberdeen will get the 3 points against Helsinki, and then Aris Limassol versus Rangers. You know, we've just talked about the managerial change at Rangers. You know, Stephen Davis will be the interim. You know, so it'll be interesting to see how Rangers come into that match. You know, obviously they're going to a place which is going to be hostile. It'll probably be warm as well. You know, Rangers have had a good start to this campaign. You know, they beat Betis a couple of weeks ago, Real Betis. So I think Rangers will win that match. I think they'll just have enough to win that. I don't think they'll win by a big margin, but I think they'll just about have enough to win. And I could see them making it 2 wins from 2 in the group stage. So we will now move on to reacting to last weekend's English Premier League results. So I'm just quickly going to go through them. So on Saturday, the matches finished: Aston Villa 6, Brighton 1, AFC Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 4, West Ham United 2, Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 2, Burnley 0, Man United 0, Crystal Palace 1, Everton 1, Luton Town 2, Wolves 2, Man City 1, and Tottenham 2, Liverpool 1. And on Sunday, there was only one match played on Sunday, and that was Nottingham Forest 1, Brentford 1. And Monday, there was only one match played, and that was Fulham 0, Chelsea 2. So, Pearse, which match from these set of results stands out to you the most?
There's quite a few, but I've went with 2 that I thought were the 2 biggest results. And that was a Tottenham 2, Liverpool 1, and Wolves 2, Manchester City 1. So we'll start off with the Tottenham 2, Liverpool 1. Thought Spurs, again, at home and unbeaten start to the season have been phenomenal. And also there's a lot of controversy surrounding the game in terms of the officiating. And also there was 2 red cards for Liverpool. The first one with Curtis Jones with a over-the-top tackle on Yves Bissouma, which I think that's an all-day a straight red, because he could have easily broken his leg because his foot was planted, Yves Bissouma. And then the Jota one, he get booked a minute before, and then the second one, he lunges. And it's a second bookable offence. I don't think you can complain about the red cards. But I think the controversial decision was the offside goal for Luis Diaz, which for me, when you look at the still images, it was clearly onside, and that was obviously a wrongdoing. And obviously Liverpool then filed a complaint against the FA looking for a rematch or a point. That's obviously not going to happen. But Tottenham again, shown again that they can play against the big boys, and again they've played some fantastic football at times. And when you've got Richarlison, Maddison, Son, Kulusevski, to name a few, that just been outstanding the start of the season, especially Son and Maddison. The connection they've got, and Son's now got 6 Premier League goals at the start of the season in only 7 games, and that's him playing through the middle. So maybe that's a sign of things to come for Tottenham. And in terms of Wolves, Manchester City, obviously Manchester City are now plagued a bit with injuries, but still you expect them with the quality they have in the field to beat Wolves. But like we say, last year Gary Neal under Bournemouth managed wonders. Coming into a difficult situation, he's now done the same with coming into a difficult situation at Wolves, but he didn't really spend any money over the summer. Julian Lopetegui complained, then left, and obviously getting a 2-1 victory over Wolves, Manchester City, was a phenomenal result, and obviously even more sweeter that it was Hwang Chan that got the winner after Pep Guardiola's comments before the game, calling Hwang Chan the Korean guy, which makes it a bit sweeter, because obviously it's a bit disrespectful towards your opponents, and I think Pep Guardiola's got previous for that, where he thinks he's a bit arrogant at times, but obviously the money they've spent as well, so you expect them to win the game. But Wolves, phenomenal achievement, quality performance, and some really nice goals. I think the standout performer was Pedro Neto, who gave Nathan Ake a torrid time down that right hand side. Yeah, and I expect Wolves to kick on now with a fantastic result against the table winners.
Yep. The match that probably stands out to me the most is the Wolves 2, Man City 1 result, just due to the fact that I don't think anyone expected Man City to lose that match. And also the fact Wolves haven't had the greatest start to the season. Obviously Man City came into that match and had won every game in the league already. And, the fact that Man City have lost that match, it kind of now maybe makes the league look a bit more interesting. Because it did look like for a point that Man City were going to kind of start running away with it. But the fact that they've lost at the weekend, it's kind of pulled that back. And there's only kind of a point between 3-4 teams now. So, yeah, and obviously a great result for Wolves. I think they really needed that. They've had quite a tough few games. And for Gary Neal, he'll hope that kind of result kickstarts their season, and can I get some moving up the table again. There is a couple other results here. Obviously, Man United getting beat at Old Trafford against Crystal Palace 1-0. What a result for Crystal Palace. To go to Old Trafford and win 1-0 and keep a clean sheet as well is fantastic. Especially the fact that Crystal Palace had been beaten by Man United the previous game at Old Trafford. So to go back on Saturday and kind of get revenge would be is brilliant for Roy Hodgson. And for Man United, it's such a bad start to the league campaign. I don't really know what's going on there. It just seems to be a recurring theme in Man United that there just always seems to be, I wouldn't say a crisis, but there just always seems to be trouble at the start of every season for Man United recently. There just doesn't seem to be any real flow to their game at the moment. They just seem to be struggling a lot. So Eric Ten Hag's got his work cut out to really fix that. Because it could be a really, really rough season if Man United don't kind of sort it out quickly. And then just finally, obviously the big talk was Tottenham and Liverpool. It was a brilliant game to watch. Two teams that really want to try and win the game. Obviously Liverpool finished with 9 men. You were saying that you think it was both of them were both red cards. I think both of them, the first one with Curtis Jones, I can understand why the referees give them a red card. It does look bad when you see the VAR in slow motion. But I think it was just the way he kind of went into the ball. It just all happened really quick. I don't think he meant to do it. I think he tried to roll the ball back to himself. But he's caught Basuma, and yeah, it's a red card. And then for Jota's red card, he got 2 bookings. I think the first booking is really harsh because I don't even think he's even attempted to try and win the ball. I think he's just running back, and Udogi's accidentally clipped his foot onto Jota's knee, and he's ended up tripping. And Jota's got himself a yellow card. But if you're on yellow card, you can't make any other fouls, and Jota made a stupid foul. And he got 2 bookings, and at the end of the day, it was rightly deserved for the second challenge that he made. And then obviously the VAR call, which was really controversial with Luis Diaz, that the PGMOL, they did rule at the end of the game that they made a mistake, and that Luis Diaz goal should have stood. And it's brought the whole argument again about VAR and if it's really working. So a big weekend of Premier League football. Lots going on, and we'll no doubt be talking more about the drama that's happened in the Premier League next week. So we also have English teams playing in European matches this week, and they include Man United versus Galatasaray, Lens versus Arsenal, Newcastle versus PSG, RB Leipzig versus Man City, and then in the Conference League, Aston Villa versus Zrinjski Mostar, and in the Europa League, ST Freiburg versus West Ham, Marseille versus Brighton, and Liverpool versus Union Saint-Gilloise. So, Pearse, what's your thoughts on these upcoming European matches?
Well, some really nice tasty ties there, but I've picked out 2 for me that I think are the standout fixtures. So the first one is going to be in the Champions League for Newcastle against PSG at St James's Park, and Marseille in the Stade Velodrome against Brighton. So I think we'll start off with the Newcastle PSG, and also I think Newcastle were buoyant from their 0-0 draw at the San Siro, largely down to a phenomenal performance from Nick Pope, keeping them in the game, because Milan will somehow rule the rudest missed chances, and somehow they don't know how they didn't win that game, because they created enough chances to win it. But I think Newcastle were kind of very pragmatic and defended for their lives at times. But also with it now being at St James's Park against PSG, who don't seem to be the all superstar side that they were of previous years, because there's now no Neymar, there's no Messi, and I'm not too sure if Kylian Mbappe will be fit. But if he is, then that's a really tough task for them. But you expect the atmosphere to be absolutely incredible, considering PSG have still got some quality players on show, and St James's Park under the lights and the Champions League anthem. I think it's just meant to be, and it's been a long time coming for them, and I think it'll be an absolute momentous occasion, and I do think Newcastle could possibly nick a draw, maybe win, because they have been up and down this season in terms of the Premier League, would have blown teams away, and obviously they've then slipped up in certain games that you wouldn't expect them to. But really looking forward to that match. I think that one will be end to end. It'll be a thrilling match to watch. And in terms of the Marseille-Brighton, we talk about Brighton a lot in the Premier League, how exciting they are to watch. But I think obviously in recent weeks they have kind of dipped in form a little bit. They're surprisingly lost in match day 1 of the Europa League, and obviously this is the first time in Europe ever. And obviously now that was at home against AEK Athens, where they lost 3-2 narrowly. I don't think they played well at all. They rotated the side quite a lot. And now they're going to one of probably the most hostile atmospheres in European football, and that's the Stade Velodrome in Marseille. It's certainly whenever you watch like a PSG Marseille game, it's the scene's absolutely incredible. It looks like a thing out of like River Plate and Boca Juniors. It looks that intense. So I do think it will be a really tough night for Brighton, and I do see them getting beat narrowly, because obviously they did get an absolute hammering at the weekend off Aston Villa. So they're the 2 matches that I'll be looking out for in terms of European matches for the English sides.
Yep. I was just looking through the matches there. A lot of interesting matches there. Obviously, Man United versus Galatasaray. That's going to be a really interesting match to watch. Obviously, Man United will be looking for a reaction. I think Man United will win that one just narrowly. I think they'll just have enough Lens versus Arsenal. Again, Lens, who had a brilliant season last season. The fact that they're in the Champions League is such a great achievement for them. But I just think Arsenal, just with the strength of squad they've got, I just think again they'll have too much for Lens, and I think Arsenal will run out winners in that match. For me, this is the standout game of the week. But Newcastle versus PSG is going to be such an exciting match to watch. That's going to be really, really good to watch. I really don't know with this match. It's so hard to call it. I'm going to say a draw. I'm going to say a draw just because the fact that I think St James's Park, Newcastle. I just don't see both teams having enough to win that match. So I'm going to say a draw for that match. And then RB Leipzig versus Man City. Again, a really good match to watch. Both teams play really good football. I'm actually going to say a draw for that match as well. Because I just think Man City's situation with their injuries at the moment, I just don't think they've got the kind of strength of squad to get through that match with a win. And then in the Conference League, we've got one match with Aston Villa, Zrinjski Mostar, who will be getting into that match full of, eagerness and really want to pull off a short result. But again, I can only see Aston Villa winning that match, especially the fact that they're at home as well. And then in Europa League, Freiburg versus West Ham, a really good game. Freiburg are a really good Bundesliga side. I can't really call that one. Again, I'm probably going to say just a West Ham win, just about. But that's going to be a really interesting match to watch. And then Marseille versus Brighton, that'd be such an exciting match to watch as well. Two Italian managers, Gattuso versus De Zerbi. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they two fare out in this week's upcoming match. I'm actually going to say Brighton win that match just due to the fact of the situation that Marseille are in at the moment. There seems to be a lot of issues there. And I just think Brighton will have such a big reaction from the defeat they had at the weekend. And then finally, Liverpool versus Union Saint-Gilloise. I just think plainly that Liverpool will just be too strong for them, especially the fact that at Anfield. And yeah, I think Liverpool will win that match as well. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with some Korean One League action. So Saturday the 30th of September, we had Pohang Steelers 0, Ulsan Hyundai 0, Suwon FC 1, FC Seoul 1, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors 1, Daegu FC 3, Incheon United 2, Suwon Samsung Blue Wings 0. And then Sunday the 1st of October, we had Gangwon FC 1, Daejeon Hana Citizen 1, Jeju United 1, Gwangju FC 2. And so that's leaving the table looking like this. We have Ulsan Hyundai on top on 66 points. In the second position, we have Pohang Steelers on 58. In the third position, we have Gwangju FC on 51. And down at the bottom of the table, we have Gangwon FC on 26 points. And at the foot of the table, we have Suwon Samsung Blue Wings on 22 points. So as you see, it's really tight at the both top and the bottom of the table. And next week will be the last match day before the top half and bottom half split. Yeah, so that's all the kind of Korean football league action. So now we're moving on to the Japanese league, so J League 1. So on Friday, the 29th of September, we had 3 matches, and that was Kawasaki Frontale 2, Albirex Niigata 3. And then the match of the season, which I've done a match report on the Football Chuggu website, so go check that out. That is Yokohama F. Mariners 0, Vissel Kobe 2. Uberare Diamonds 1, Yokohama FC 1. And then on Saturday, the 30th of September, to round things off, we had Hokkaido Consadole Sapporo 1, Kawashiri Reysol 2. Avispa Fukuoka 0, Kawashiri Antlers 0. Cerezo Osaka 0, Shonan Bellmare 2. Sagan Tusas 3, Kyoto Sanga FC 2. Sanfrecce Hiroshima 3, Nagoya Grampus 1. And then Sunday, the 1st of October, we had one match, and that was FC Tokyo 3, Gambo Osaka 0. So that's leaving the table looking like this. So at the top of the table, we have Vissel Kobe on 58 points after 29 matches. And then we've got now Yokohama Marinos now 4 points behind, following that top of the table clash. So Yokohama Marinos have got all to play for in the remaining 5 matches to stand any chance of retaining a crown. And Kevin Muscat's side have got it all to play for now. And it's in Vasyl Kobe's hands to lose now, I think. So we've also got all the way from 3rd to 8th position. We've got Ura Diamonds on 50 points, Cal Shantlers on 47, San Hiroshima on 47, Lugo Grampus on 47, and then Ceres Osaka and Avispa Fukuoka both on 45 points. So as you can see, you've got 6 sides, separated by only 5 points. So it's all to play for in the remaining top 6 / Asian Champions League positions. And at the bottom of the table, we've got a straight shootout between Kawashiri Reysol on 16th on 29 points, Shonan Bellmare in 17th on 24 points, and Yokohama FC in 18th position on 23 points to stave off the fight of relegation. And like we said, with only 5 games remaining, it's all to play for, and it's set for a thrilling end to the season, both at the top and bottom half of the table. So now moving on to some Asian football news. Son Heung-Min, the South Korean and Tottenham Hotspur captain, has never played for an Asian club, but has now, with his goal against Liverpool, has now reached a milestone 200 club goal. Son scored 20 goals for Hamburg, 29 for Bayer Leverkusen, and 151 goals for Tottenham Hotspur. Son is in top form this season with 6 goals in his first 7 Premier League games of the season. He's now 6th in Tottenham's all-time top scorers list and remains a key player for Spurs after Harry Kane's departure. And manager Ange Postecoglou values his football and talent and leadership abilities. And South Korea have also revealed their squad list for the upcoming friendlies against Tunisia and Vietnam in the next international break. So South Korea will host Tunisia at the Seoul World Cup Stadium on the 13th of October, and that's set for an 8 p.m. kickoff, Korean Southern Time. And South Korea are also set to play Vietnam in the Seoul World Cup Stadium also on the 17th of October, and that's also set for an 8 p.m. kickoff. So the squad list is so 3 goalkeepers in Kim Seong-gyu, Kim Jung-hoon, and Jo Hyun-woo. And they've got obviously the defenders Kim Min-jae, Kim Yong-won, Kim Joo-sung, Kim Jin-soo, Kim Tae-wan, Seo Young-woo, Lee Ki-ji, Jung Sung-hyun, and then the midfielders we've got Moon Sung-min, Park Young-woo, Son Heung-min, Lee Kang-in, Lee Sun-min, Lee Jae-sung, and a recall for the start of the under-23 South Korea's for in the Asian Games in 2022, which is still going on at the current moment of recording. So it's a first recall for Jung Woo-young since the World Cup in Qatar. He has 11 caps so far and 2 goals to name for the former Bayern Munich star, and he'll be looking to add to that impressive tally. And we've also got Hong Hyung-suk, Hwang In-bom, and the match won at the weekend, Hwang Yi-chan, and also 3 forwards in Oh Young-gu from Celtic, Cho Gu-sung from SM Taizong, and Hwang Yu-jo. So the Korean Legends All-Star Games, which will be held in Seoul on the 20th of October, I'm proud to announce that I will be attending that match, and I'll have content on the website in the form of match reports and potentially pictures with some of the legends that are going to be on show. So some of the legends that include Ronaldo Nazario, Ronaldinho, Roberto Carlos, Kaká, Rivaldo, Francesco Totti, Alessandro Del Piero, Fabio Cannavaro, Paolo Maldini, Marco Materazzi, and many more. So with 3 teams of South Korean legends, Brazil legends, and Italian legends, it's set to be a remarkable spectacle here in South Korea. And here at Football Chuggu, we've got you covered. And that's all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.